Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone.
I'm Heather.
I'm Ian Starr.
Yeah.
We are Mile 27 Realty.
Yeah.
But we're also
Rental Property
University.
But we couldn't get the name University.
So we're Rental Property U.
And did we say our names?
You did.
Okay.
Heather.
Yeah.
But I think you should go with Heather Anderson.
I'm Heather Anderson.
And I'm Ian Starr.
Welcome. We're calling this the Real Estate Oregon Trail. And that was Ian's idea, and it was really great because there's a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
Well, and that sounds so negative, but it's like...
Well, I mean, okay, so in the Oregon Trail, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a lot of struggles.
Yeah.
And
Truth. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Not everybody made it.
Yeah.
To the
it's like
Oregon,
a fact.
The territory of Oregon.
Okay.
Right? And so what we're dealing with right here is that struggle, right? The struggle to get to the Oregon territory. But obviously we're not really going to Oregon.
It's kind of like, okay. It's kind of like this. People want to be in our business because it's actually a lot of fun. You've used that word to describe it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. It's been really hard for me, but I'm having more fun now. Like doing stuff like this is fun to me.
Yeah.
But it's still hard. I mean, figuring out the deals and the strategy, and you're always like you're always learning. It never kind of gets like where you've arrived, you know? But on the journey of becoming, it is a long, treacherous road.
And it doesn't stop being treacherous all because
Yeah.
you get a property or two properties.
No.
You know, I mean, it's just like everything else, that when you accumulate, more assets, there's a lot more responsibility.
Yeah.
So, everybody wants to be successful in real estate that have real estate portfolios. So you just have to maintain a certain, I'd say, state of mind, right?
Yeah.
Which I feel like we embrace wholeheartedly, as that you have to adapt, you have to adjust, right? And you have to overcome.
Yeah.
And I got that from Bear Grylls, of course.
Adapt, overcome.
Yeah.
What's Bear Grylls?
Bear Grylls is a survivalist.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
And he had a show called Survival. I think it was like Survival with Bear Grylls or something.
Was he military?
He was. He was a British military.
Oh, okay. Bear Grylls.
And yeah, so he had a show where but it was accept, adapt, overcome.
Was he in the wilderness?
Yeah.
And was it like Naked and Afraid?
Not quite, but he always had clothing, but he didn't really have anything. He was just kind of dropped out in the wilderness. Was like Naked and Afraid.
Okay, but
Naked and Afraid, they've got it way harder than he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, is it like where he's in a helicopter and they're like, "Oh, you're going to go over here.
We're going to drop you off over here."
Wow, and then he's got to figure out how to survive?
Yeah.
How does he get out?
Well, I think I'm not sure if I can't quite remember.
Okay.
The I guess how the show worked.
Okay.
But basically they dropped him and he would just, he would, wherever country he was in, he would tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it and like the way to survive. Wow,
that's amazing.
Eating some pretty questionable things for surviving. And he always had a camera guy with him. I don't think it was, and then he had another show where he took celebrities out and, basically show them how to survive and like if they could make it or if they couldn't make it. But I would assume they always had satellite phone close by to call for emergencies. They're not going to just leave them out there and just like, well, it looks like we got the footage, but we can't find the bodies. So, but going back to the Oregon Trail.
Okay, but real quick, why did they say accept, adapt, overcome?
Because that's what he said. That was his motto.
Okay, if he was in like a dire situation, not even that extreme.
Accept it.
Okay.
Accept what situation you're in. Adapt to that situation.
Okay.
And overcome your situation. Because usually it's accept. You're not accepting great things, right? Or you will. You have to accept the good things and the bad things. But I think what he's focusing on is you have to accept the hardship you're in. Learn how to adapt, so you can overcome that issue you had to accept.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And move on.
Move on.
Yeah, because remember when we were rehabbing the apartments in 2021.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
And you taught me accept, adapt, overcome. And it really, really helped me. Like it changed my mind, you know? And I would say I'm a different person because of that mindset now that you've taught me. Yeah.
I mean, you always had it, you know, in there, the ability to do it. Everybody's got the ability. It's just a matter of when it clicks.
Yeah.
So that's when it clicked for you.
It clicked for me. Not to dwell.
Yeah.
Like, don't live in blaming the thing that happened 8 months ago. Like,
on what's happening to you right now.
Yeah. Just accept it. Move on.
And, you know, certain situations, like, you know, that is not going to be enough. Accepting, adapting, and overcoming. But most situations.
Like almost all.
Almost all.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you know, you got to make, you have to make sacrifices. In real estate, like, not everybody just has enough money for a down payment to just throw down and just forget about it.
Yeah, like $100,000.
You have to work. You have to work.
rental property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you have to work for it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. It's not easy to become a real estate investor.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reason why we have Oregon Trail is because there's certain pitfalls along the way that you have to. You know, you have a destination you're going to.
Yeah.
You're starting out with your, you know, you're vibrant, full of life. I've got a lot of supplies, plenty of wheels, you know, plenty of money. But a lot of people, they just jump into it without, you know, listening to enough people. A lot of people are in bigger pockets, or they're on these real estate websites that, you know, that everybody's got an opinion. And this is just our opinion.
This is just our opinion.
So this is our version of how to make you a great rental property investor. And so we just equate it to Oregon Trail because you have a starting point, you have a destination, there's some pitfalls, there's some great things that happen in there.
Wow.
But, you know, I think it's a good analogy.
I think it's great. It's really descriptive of the truth. And you're right. A lot of people, like, not a lot of people, but I find that some of, like, I don't want to say, okay, how do I say it? Sometimes when I listen to, like, the bigger voices out there, sometimes, not all the time, but it's like the message, I guess, that I get is like, it's easy. Everyone can do it. And in a way that's true. I'm not trying to say, because I think you know, it's not like rocket science, but it's expensive business.
Yes.
And you have to have some level of aptitude to do it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, how do I say that?
You cannot, it's not a passive.
Yeah, it's not
a passive investment.
So, like, there's factors like your personality, like, even that matters, you know, like, some people are just better suited for this kind of business. You know what I'm saying?
You have to be a little bit more risk tolerant.
Yeah, risk tolerant. You have to see the big picture, or like the little details of it drive you insane, because you can't look at the ticker tape on this. You know, you might not know your returns for like years and years and years. You can't just go to like Vanguard and look up the portfolio like we were doing earlier today. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's a slower moving investment, and you have to have patience. You have to have patience. And I think it's hard to like build the patience muscle for a lot, especially in this fast moving world that we live in, Ian.
Yes. I agree with that.
You really have to have a patience for this business because it's a slower animal.
Slower, yeah, it's really slow.
Yeah. I did hear this one thing on like YouTube Shorts yesterday, and it kind of annoyed me, and it's been on my mind. And it was like the guy, and he looked successful, and he was older, and I think this probably worked for him. And again, going back to like his personality and maybe his upbringing and all those his situation,
yeah, his circumstances.
But I think the advice was like, hey, what you need to do is, if you have a 401k that has $100,000 in it, take 20% out. That's $20,000.
Okay.
Go buy a rental property, and then wait for the mark, and then in 1 year, do a cash out refinance, take equity, and go buy the second rental property. And I'm like, okay, where can you buy a rental property with only $20,000 down? Number one. Number two, which I would like that to happen. I want that to happen because I think that helps more people get into rental property investing that want to get into rental property investing. But I just don't know where that's real, including closing costs, because we got to cover closing costs, and we know those are just expensive now. Even on if you put 20% down on that would be $100,000 property value, right? Where are those? And then and then for it to appreciate enough in 1 year that it would appreciate
enough so where you could pull money out,
take out another 20%. That would have to appreciate what market appreciates 20%. Maybe a rogue year. We did see that in COVID, but those are rogue years. Those are like 1 out of every 40 years, maybe 30 years that we would see an appreciation. That's common. A hyperinflation. I just thought that's not real. And then he's going to go like, people are going to listen. And that's okay. I have to watch myself and stuff like that because that might work for some people. You have a visitor.
Oh, hi. Well, you're going to give it to me if you want me to throw it.
Goose.
Silly boy.
Yeah, he's a boy. Yeah, so anyway.
Certified for
you know what I'm saying, Ian? I think that just sometimes it's so confusing out there. But the truth is, like, yeah, the thing is people did make it to the end of the Oregon Trail, didn't they?
They did.
But the reality is some people did die on the way, and we're trying to help. So I guess maybe we're
trying to make sure your real estate journey doesn't end with you getting dysentery of the house.
Yeah. It's kind of like we're real estate Oregon Trail coaches.
Yeah. So we are your
right.
We are the I'd say we're like the trail what does they call it, the trailhead, the trail guide.
Yeah.
Like
are we like?
We're the
state not troopers. No. What do they call the people that work? National Park.
Oh, National Park?
That's not right.
Like park ranger?
Yeah. Are we a park ranger?
No.
Okay.
We are not a park ranger.
Okay.
We're like the Sherpas in real estate. We're trying to get you to the top of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And Mount Everest, treacherous the entire time, even when you're at the top.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'd say that, Oregon Trail, you have a distance you're trying to make. You're trying to make a destination. The destination is, real estate portfolio success. And I think also it's a good way to do it is we're the Sherpa.
I like that.
We're the trail hand or trail guide, or there's people that had to. Sometimes there's people that went with. Some people did it by themselves. This is getting better. Okay. So let's think about it like this.
Okay.
So say you've got a group of people that are going to take their trip to Oregon by themselves.
Okay.
It's a family of 5 or maybe a few families of 5. Okay. Everybody's got their own provisions, their own guns, their own abilities. And they are going to try to make the trek to Oregon.
Okay.
Now you have a second set of 5 families.
Okay.
But they enlisted a guide, right? They enlisted a person that's done the trip maybe a few times.
Okay.
Like you would consider them an Oregon Trail expert.
Okay.
Well, who do you think would have a better chance of getting from the eastern territories to the western territories of Oregon?
The second group.
Because they had a guide. That, hey, this is the river that we need to just wade through.
Yeah.
Or this is the one where we need to kind of box it up. Let's float across.
Yeah.
Where the first family, they're doing it based off of just gut.
They don't know.
So they're having to accept, adapt, and then overcome.
Okay.
Where the second group, they have somebody that can help them adapt quicker.
Yeah. And maybe not even get into the same
situation.
They
avoid, like maybe there's a fork in the road, right? And that one goes around and it's clear sailing.
Okay.
No potential pitfalls over here.
Right.
And then you've got one it looks straight ahead, but that's where the bridge is out. But the guide says, I know the bridge is out here. We got to go around the long way. So we're those trail hands or those guides.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have a better ability to adapt, to overcome situations when you have a professional that's been in it for, combined over 20 years.
Exactly. That's a good point. I think that you really nailed that.
I think I did too.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of
I think you nailed
improv.
that. Yeah.
Not improv, but
no, just like
kind of talking through it.
We like analogies. We've actually been working analogies like for years.
I've been learning how to do better analogies for
years
since I started in real estate in 2016.
Honestly, and you've gotten a lot better at that.
Thank you.
And I think you just like reached your pinnacle.
But I want to tell everybody, like, when you're watching this, we have a general few bullet points to go off of. So if we're doing a little bit of ranting and just kind of going down rabbit holes, I'm sorry, but hey, this is what we're going to be doing. So welcome. And join us on our rabbit hole situation.
But we will get to the point.
Well, yeah, definitely.
We have to. And honestly,
we have to get to the point.
We actually spent like close to, let's see what time it is here.
It is.
Yeah, we have spent 2 hours just talking before we even started doing this. So
yeah,
I guess we got a lot of it out of the way. So I guess that's good.
Yeah. So, I guess that can bring us to our question.
Okay. So what we like to do on version 1 of Real Estate Oregon Trail, rental property investing, real estate rental property investing Oregon Trail.
Gesundheit.
Is to answer questions from investors from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you are an investor on the internet and you want a question answered, please feel free to ask questions.
Yeah.
If we have an answer for you, it'll be from our lens.
Yeah.
And there's multiple lens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one that we know is tried and true and a process that works. And hopefully you can learn from our process to help your process become the right process.
Yes. Thank you, Ian. And it's like our goal is to talk to like the investor that wants to be an investor. So the to-be investors. And then also the ones that have already gotten started. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have 1 or 2 rentals, but they want to grow their portfolio.
And they don't know what to do quite yet.
Like the people that just, maybe they want anywhere from like 1 to 10 rental properties. It can grow beyond that for sure. But we have found that's pretty much like
all you need.
The norm. That's the majority of people.
But again, it depends on your goals.
It depends on your goals. But that we find like that's
some people have an ambition that they want to own, multiple apartment buildings, but they start out with one.
They start out. You got to
start out with one single family residence.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to crawl before you walk.
Yeah, like I was talking to a guy the other day that wants to own rentals, and somehow we stumbled on this 12-unit like what do you even call it? 12 unit. 12 unit. It was like one kind of old house that was somehow converted into 12 units anyway. And I was like, okay, do you really think it's possible, reasonable? Do you think it's a good idea to go from having 0 tenants to now having anywhere from 12 to 24 tenants? Because what if each unit had 2 people living in it? That's a lot of people to like have granted, hopefully he was going to get a property manager, but honestly, most people think they're going to try to do it without a property manager is what I have found when I talk to the general public.
It's a big expense. Yeah.
Yeah, but really it isn't. They think it's an expense, but like the shift into entrepreneurship is you don't see those things as expenses. You see them as investments because like the shift of the mind is saying like the consumer mind thinks this is a cost, this is an expense, but the investor mind sees it as an investment
in the future, in future returns.
Exactly, because they don't know what they don't know. So they think if I hire the right person, they're going to help me reach my financial goals quicker. Mm-hmm. Number 1. Number 2, I should lose less money. It's kind of like when people hire us to sell their house or investors buy and we get paid commissions. This is real because we've done it a lot, but our job is to really get our money covered in a way, because we find new deals.
Mm-hmm.
We list for top dollar, we sell for top dollar. Usually, if the market is in a total recession, nobody, I don't care how skilled they are, is going to be able to do whatever. But the idea is that a really good leader doesn't actually cost you anything. A really good leader, their fees are covered in the money that you wouldn't have to spend making the mistakes you were going to make.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
I think about how to say it, how to express that, so people, especially our first-time investors that have a consumer mind, when they're shifting into an entrepreneurial mind, how do
I mean,
they
I'm
understand?
in that boat, right? Because like to me, I'm thinking that's a cost, and that's just like your gut reaction. Being that I'm new to, well, I guess relatively new to real estate.
Well, you're 8 years in.
Yeah.
And your family, your mother-in-law, did it.
Yeah.
Before, and you've been married how long?
Oh, it'll be 11 years.
Okay.
This year.
Cool.
September 7th.
So you've been in, I mean, your mother-in-law's been an investor way before that.
Oh, yeah.
She started in 2000. So, and you 11 years ago. So anyway, you've had exposure to it,
Yeah.
for over a decade.
And my parents, we had one rental growing up.
Yeah.
And that was the house that I was spent my first 3 years of life.
Okay. And they own one rental now in Florida.
They don't actually, no,
Well,
second home.
It's a second home.
They don't rent it.
Okay. True. But it's kind of like,
It's
technically
equity.
an investment property.
It's an investment
Yeah,
property.
it kind
Oh,
of,
for sure.
Kind of. It's more their needs. Number one.
Each house is specific to a parent's need.
Yeah.
My
But your mother-in-law, she's strictly an investor.
strictly an
Strictly
investor.
a rental property investor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she started off early,
Yeah.
working her butt off.
Yeah. She came over
saving,
from Vietnam,
Yeah. She's
right before Saigon fell.
Correct.
Unbelievable. I love
and
that story.
yeah, I mean, and she, started not completely from scratch, but, really had nothing to her name.
Yeah.
She, came over with almost absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Kid in hand.
It's amazing.
And, she has multiple properties.
Yeah.
She's bought and sold multiple properties.
Wow.
And but she took that, don't live beyond your means.
Right.
To heart.
Wow.
Saving wherever she could. She's a deal. She finds deals. She doesn't spend frivolously. She saves constantly. And but she had the mindset of, I'm going to live way below my means to be able to purchase multiple properties, because you have to make sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
And she made, I guess I would say she made more than most people do.
Totally. 100% she
For
did.
her family, my wife and her brothers.
Yeah.
She was just a workaholic, a money saver.
But the thing is, she was a 7-Eleven clerk, right?
Yes, she was, but she also at one point, owned her own nail salon.
Yeah.
And so that was an investment that, potentially
When did
worked her
she get out of that? Do you know
I
what
have
year?
no idea.
It was before you met her?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was before 2010 at least.
Yeah, because I know that she got like an inheritance when, like a little bit, a tiny one, but that was how she was able to buy her first property. Because when I interviewed your wife for the book, because his mother-in-law's in our book, What Type of Rental Property Investor Am I?
Mm-hmm.
And she is our whale. We have, whoa, bless you, Cypress. We have 4 animals. We have a wolf, we have a goldfish, we have a fox, and a whale. And the whale are the top dogs. And what we call a whale is anybody that's made over $1 million in real estate investing, rental property investing specifically. Like that's the net worth at least or more. Okay, is what we call a whale. We speak to the people looking to make a few million, not necessarily a few billion. If you get to a few billion, awesome. But we're really speaking to those people that are looking to make a few million. But anyway, so it was really cool just learning the details of your mother-in-law's story. I already knew the
So
basic.
now you know
archetype.
more than I know about my mother-in-law.
I guess you'll have to read about it
Well, yeah.
in the book.
I'll read about it in the book.
Ian has to do the proofread anyway, so I guess you'll be the first reader.
I will be the
technically.
first reader.
Yeah.
I feel privileged and honored
Wow.
to be the first one to read the book of Heather.
The book of our investors.
Yeah.
I just organized it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you put it together pretty well.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
You know, I've read. I've actually not read it, but
yeah, you
I've,
started reading a little bit of
Little.
it just when I was writing.
When
it.
you were writing
Yeah,
it.
to be like, hey, is this way off?
Oh, it's right on, man.
You know, it's really a compliment. The editor said that
Oh yeah.
he did say like,
It
I mean,
read well?
you know, he was just like, it wasn't a mess. I mean, he was nicer than that, but it's like he was saying like, for first time author, it wasn't like bad.
Hey, that's pretty good.
I know.
For first time you wrote a book.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, he was like, it's actually.
It's not good.
I don't think he
but it's
used
not
the
bad.
word good, and it was something like he's a writer, so his words aren't good or bad. He uses other words that are more colorful and
Yeah.
like beautiful, you know, like
His vocabulary.
poignant, you know.
His vocabulary is a little bit.
Yeah.
His lexicon is a little bit larger.
Yeah, so he said something, but it was in the wheelhouse of like, I'm impressed, but it wasn't the word impressed. It was maybe something like I can't remember what it was, but
Hey,
the takeaway
he
I
gave
got,
you praise.
Yeah, he led me to believe like this is okay.
Just okay.
I think it was better than okay.
Okay, better than okay.
Maybe if it was a scale of 1 to 10, he's like, this is a 6.5 or 7, maybe. I don't know what that means, but
You're not going to give it up.
anyway. So, all right, Ian, how about we read our question?
Let's read our question.
Okay, this is from Reddit. Okay, this is from Public Wishbone 3735 on the real estate investing. Like, what do you call it? Is it a forum? Is it a chat? Is it
Oh, that
I
would
don't
be
know how.
that would be I guess a group.
a group? Okay, from the r/real estate investing group. Okay, is now a bad time to buy my first investment property? Given the current real estate market conditions and macroeconomics, is now a bad time to buy my first investment property? What should I look for to mitigate as much risk as possible? And this was written 1 year ago, and we are in July of 2024. So this was around July of 2023.
Okay.
When interest rates were higher, as we know them,
Yeah,
as
that's
we
when they
consider
started-
them to be higher.
Yeah, going up.
Yeah, and then the market was pretty slow. It's been a pretty flat market from July of 2023 to July of 2024. And what that means is like if this property was, Property X was worth 300,000 last year, this time it'd probably be about 300,000 this time of year. Okay, so there's no appreciation. Okay, so Public Wishbone 7335. Is it the right time? Well, and Ian, he uses the word macroeconomics, and macroeconomics is a very broad term and it's subjective, and we don't really know what he means, or her. It might be a woman, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes people get caught up in those analysis paralysis and these words that they don't really know what they mean. And I'm not trying to offend you, Public Wishbone. Maybe you are an economist, but if you're not, we don't really talk in those terms, do we? When's the last time your mother-in-law, talked about macroeconomics?
Never.
Did the investor you worked with yesterday, did she mention macroeconomics?
No.
Have you ever thought about macroeconomics
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're buying a rental?
Not really.
Yeah.
Very micro, specific to area.
Mm-hmm.
In like
Opportunity.
this question that
Yeah.
it's a very broad question,
Yeah.
right? So, what we try to do is focus the question.
Yeah. Let's focus it.
Focus the question through our lens. Because
Yeah.
macro, you have this big wide angle lens,
Yeah.
right? We're trying to focus it in this little space,
Yeah.
DFW, right? Where we know
Yeah.
how it works, how to do it,
Right.
when to do it.
I think when you talk to unicorn
Investors.
or like hedge funds or people that work on Wall Street or like in like heavy finance, like they're deep into finance. I think
People
they
with
would use
deep-
terms like this.
Deep pockets.
Yeah, or if you read the New York Times or like like some fancy magazine that talks like this, you would probably use these kind of terms. But I think the everyday investor doesn't talk like this. I think I'm not saying it's not real or like you should be completely oblivious to like
terms.
if there's a recession going on. I'm not like saying that. But what I'm saying is if you're talking about macroeconomics and you've never bought an investment property and is like, is it a good time to buy? I just think that question isn't like, you're probably in over your head in a way asking that question. I think like the key to getting ahead is getting started. And we talk about the time value of money a lot.
I like the way you put that, actually.
Really?
Like that question shows that you're not ready.
Yeah. Or yeah, you're in this super information gathering phase.
Mm-hmm.
You're not probably in the execution phase.
You're using these I guess buzzwords and terms that you see a lot in these kinds of forums.
Yeah.
As opposed to people that are in the industry doing it.
Mm-hmm. You probably haven't done your research is what I'm thinking, and you probably don't know your area, because the flow of the investor mindset is like initial due diligence and research, asking the questions. It's kind of like the scientific method, Ian.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
It really is.
Yeah.
You remember
testing your theory,
but before you even test your theory, you have to do the research.
Mm-hmm.
And you do your research, and then you have a question. So you have a thought, like what's like you're not even at the hypothesis yet. Mm-mm. Because you haven't done your research. You have to do your research before you do your hypothesis. You have an initial thought. And then from the thought, you do the research. And this is research. I mean, I will say taking the time to post something on Reddit.
Being a big question or small question.
I mean,
you're
that's
still
a
starting.
step you took for like actually
that's
starting
awesome.
it. That is a good thing, right? And
got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Got to start somewhere because you don't know where to start. And like you just begin, truly. That's what this is. This is us just beginning. We have no idea what we're doing.
And we are making an assumption about the question, the person who posted the question.
We really are.
Yeah. And this, we're just looking at it through how we would read that question from a potential client.
Yeah. And we get it a lot, and we have a gut for like asserting and assessing and discerning where people are at on this scientific method journey of discovery into action into success,
Correct.
So I think you're probably in the question forming stage, mm-hmm. and then you're into the research gathering phase. And then now you're working to create your hypothesis is my guess where you're at public wishbone 3735.
Yeah. Cause I mean, if somebody asked me that question and we're like, okay, well right now is a good time to buy.
Yeah.
Let's go buy something.
Yeah. It would probably be like, I don't know, because I did have this other investor that I met with, and he's a wannabe investor. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, wannabe. I'm saying like he wants to be an investor, but he doesn't know what kind of investor. He doesn't know what if he's a rental property investor, if he's a flipper, if he's a wholesaler, if he's the money guy because he doesn't have the time, which he has the ability to be the money guy. Not everybody does. If he wants to build a portfolio, he said he might want to do like a rehab on his own house and then flip that. Like he's kind of like got his hands in a lot of honeypots, and then his area, I'm like, where do you want to be? He's like, anywhere. Anytime anybody tells me anywhere, I'll immediately know they're not in the execution phase. They're in the research phase. Mm-hmm. They're in the question asking phase. You have to be focused on the market. He even said, I'd be willing to drive up to 3 hours. I'm like, okay, nobody's willing to drive up to 3 hours that's serious, because that's so unrealistic. And once you really dig in and analyze that, you really don't execute. So, but I think that the macroeconomics, just be careful about things like that, because, well, ask it, if that's what you need to do for your process. But I'm saying like the reality is, have a general idea. Don't be a complete oblivious, but at the same time, if you're a first time investor, don't let that hold you up. The truth and the answer is, it's always a good time to buy if the deal makes sense. Mm-hmm. How do you know if the deal makes sense? You talk to real estate professionals, you talk to property managers, you talk to somebody that knows what they're doing in a real way in current times. If your dad's friend bought one rental in 1975, he's a good guy to ask general questions, but he's not a good guy to know what's the truth about today's market and how does it work today.
Yeah.
But it's a good piece of information to add to the puzzle if you have access to something like that. But I would say if you're able and willing, your why is strong enough, that means you're willing, and then you're able financially, and with your, situation with your wife or your partner,
or your job, or your potential vacation, or travel. All these things are part of that equation that either equals yes, it is time for you to buy now, or no. You need to reevaluate your situation.
Correct.
Or you need to change something, or something needs to be added to where you could become willing or able.
Yeah.
And able to perform.
Yeah, and so I thought to illustrate this, Ian, I went through some of our clients, some of our investors.
Okay.
And I thought about their times that they bought, and I thought maybe we could illustrate a few stories to help, public wishbone.
Okay.
Apply it to their life, okay?
Sounds good.
So the first one I wanted to start with was a guy named Scott C. We actually have two Scotts we're going to talk about. You never met this guy.
I didn't meet this Scott. I met the other Scott.
You didn't meet the other Scott, but you know of the other Scott.
I met one of the Scotts because...
Did you meet Scott Belsley? You met him.
Scott Belsley.
You met him. You sure did. Yeah.
I helped him find the house.
Scott Belsley, the old guy?
No, that's
seasoned?
the other guy. The other Scott.
Scott C?
The long hair?
No, this guy...
Nope.
We've actually never worked with this guy. This was one of my counterparts.
Okay.
When I was working for the hedge fund. Okay. And he was like a realtor, okay? But he actually kind of got lucky, to be honest with you, because he didn't really know like fully what he was doing. He kind of stumbled into this because he was in the right time, but he kind of just was, I don't know, perfect timing in a way, which you can't control that.
Oh, this is the foreclosures?
Yeah. You remember, did I tell you about him?
No, I read about it. And
the book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wrote about him. Yeah. So he basically he just was in the right time, and he had the right
place,
idea,
right time.
Yeah, he had the
with money in hand.
He was in the right time, and he had the time. You know what I'm saying? Like it just, and then his mindset was right. Like he was young enough where
you're a little bit more risk
tolerant.
tolerant.
Like he's like, late 20s, I guess. And he was like, let's go for it.
I need something.
Yeah. And so
something to change.
He like pivoted, I guess, his business model.
Yeah.
And then, which we all did, because nobody was working in foreclosures in 2004. You didn't have to.
Yeah.
We were all working in foreclosures by about 2010 because we had to. And so he went to the foreclosure auctions, which in Texas, it's the first Tuesday of every month in every county across the state of Texas. It's called Super Tuesday, and it happens rain, shine, sleet, snow, holiday. Doesn't matter. It's always happening that one day of the month. And he just started buying a bunch of properties not a bunch. I'm sure he started with like one. One. Started out with one.
Yeah. But he did purchase more properties.
He did. And then he just started flipping them. And then did he know how to flip properties before that? I don't think so. Okay. And then he just made a bunch of money, and then he bought some rentals from that. Like I've recently heard, I never said this, but I've recently heard this from some other investors, and it makes sense to me. And like they say, flip, buy, rental. So flip 3, buy 1 rental, because that rental gives you your long-term cash, and the 3 flips give you your cash flow, or not your cash flow. They give you your equity, your income, your
spending.
Your money. Like they make your money, but rental properties save your money. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's your retirement plan and kind of your long-term goal.
Okay.
Because you can't flip in every market, number one. And number two, not very few, but I would say like, okay, this is just anecdotal, but I don't see a lot of people that flip houses for 30 years. Okay. I see people flip houses, get in and get out, because it's hard, dirty work.
Yeah.
Or somehow they find a way to build a team, and then the team does it. If they can do that, if they can't do that, then they just don't flip anymore because they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's a very risky business. It's really stressful, high stress.
Expensive.
And the reason why it's so high stress is because like you wake up every day and you never know what fires you're going to have to put out, and you will have to put out fires no matter how good your systems and processes are. Because it's a lot of unknowns. It's a lot of adjustments from the day before of things that got done and didn't get done.
Mm-hmm. People are big variables in that, like whoever you're getting as your general contractor, or any of your vendors, or people that work, people that you can really count on. Sometimes, aren't able to help. And so you got to be able to adapt to that.
You do. And like supply, supply chain issues are real, especially since COVID, where things get back ordered or delayed. Weather is a real thing. We have a lot of weather delays for various reasons.
We get some pretty big
or too cold. You can't pour foundations, or
we get pretty big thunderstorms and hailstorms.
It's just electricity's out. We can't work. I mean, it's real. These things are real. So you're always adjusting on the pivot on the moment, and you're always against the clock because you can't hold the properties long. You're working long, late hours. It's 12-hour days, 14-hour days. You're driving. You're working in the heat and the elements a lot of times. It's just really labor intensive. And the people that you're working with, like you're building new teams all the time. Mm-hmm. Even when you replicate certain vendors, you can't always replicate the same exact team every time. Some people get it right that are very successful in this business, but a lot of people don't. So it's just a very risky, very stressful business. And it's hard to do that for 30 years. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with that.
Okay.
Because just some of the stories that I've had to, I've had the privilege of hearing, have just sometimes, thrown me for a bit of a loop on like, wow, it's like, that is a possibility, and there's so many different scenarios that you could run into. But it just takes the first one and then the second.
Yeah.
It's like in everything, you're never an expert at the very beginning. You have to learn the process.
Yeah.
And the best way to learn is by doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
Start doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's Scott C. And he told me one time, he said he wished he would have kept more as rental properties. And I have heard that from flippers, not just from him. Again, this is just, you hear random things over the years, right? Mm-hmm. And it kind of becomes that Kaiser Sose usual suspects moment where you're kind of like, oh, wow, like that's a theme, that's a thread, that's a thing, and it just kind of gather little pieces of like, you heard that for a long, and they're like, oh, okay, I guess that's kind of a thing in that space. But anyway, it's not to say don't flip. I'm just saying, like, if you want to flip, maybe consider also doing rental property
at the same time.
Right, because it forces you to save your money, whatever. It's just going back to diversification. That's a way to diversify.
That is our recommendation.
Yeah, it just sounds like a good idea to me. That's all.
But usually your gut's pretty correct.
Thanks, Ian.
So I would say if it's three flips and a rental.
If you're going to flip. If you're not going to flip, like we're not flippers.
No.
We are just rental property investors. So that's who we're mainly talking to. But I'm just saying Scott C. was a flipper. And so was it the right time for him to buy in the recession of the market? I mean, absolutely.
Apparently so.
This guy made millions of dollars. He did it like dozens of times once he figured out, oh, wow, I've got something here. He was early. Okay. Mm-hmm. By the time I started working with the hedge fund American Homes for Rent, that wasn't until the end of 2011. Well, he started doing this in like 2009, maybe even 2008. He was an early adopter.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, good for Scott.
So by the time like people woke up to like, whoa, let me get on the bandwagon. And then the rest of the world didn't wake up in until 2014.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when you start hearing of these real estate sites using the BRRRR strategy.
Yeah. That's when the normal person came out of the woodworks and started doing acquisitions.
6 years later.
Okay. So just to give you an idea. So was it the right time to buy for Scott? All of his friends told him it was not.
It was crazy. Yeah, probably.
But that's how it goes.
But again, his situation called for, yes, I have the ability to thrive in this market.
Yeah.
And, of course he had growing pains. But he started out, you got to start, and he did it.
So that was an example
successful.
Of like,
he's going to be in this book that you're going to want to read.
Thanks for the plug, yeah. For our first book of many. Yeah. Okay, the next person I wanted to talk about was my little sister, Tiffany. So my sister, she's 8 years younger than me, and she is a testament to me because she bought her first house when she was like 25. Now, it was a house she lived in, like, she got married and then they bought their first house, okay? Yeah. And so, but again, they bought that in 2011. 2011 was the second lowest year of the recession. We were just starting to come out, sort of. We were still in a flat market, actually, from 2010 to 2011. Okay.
I had no idea what was going on in real estate at that time because I was still a chef.
Yeah. You got in 2016. But the thing is, like, she bought that house and that house almost tripled by the time we sold it, which was last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She bought it for like 150 or 140, 150, 156. That number sounds right to me. And we sold it for about 420, 430, 450. I should know that just a year ago.
425. Oh man, that's going to bother me if I don't look it up.
Okay, check it out.
Okay.
And then she moved to Arizona about 5 years later, and she built another house in 2017, which was a flat market, by the way. That was a flat market in 2017. We were very slow that year. I remember it very clearly. That was his second year, and I just remember that year. It was like the first break I had since 2014. We were just on fire. 14, 15, 16, and then 17 was our first break. And then, so then she sold that house and built another house in Texas. She moved back to Texas, and then Dallas area, North Dallas, and she bought in another flat market. This was in the summer of 2020, COVID. And this was a similar market, what we're dealing with right now. Builders were giving away a lot of incentives. That's how you know you're in either a flat or semi-declining market, because builders give away a lot of incentives. They sell to investors, rental property investors, and they're doing things they don't do in a boom market. Okay. So those are great, easy indicator. If you want to know what kind of market you're in, call about 3 different builders in your area and ask them what their incentives are. And then you will know. Okay. If they're giving away, if they're buying interest rates down, if they're giving away fridges and washers and dryers and blinds, if they are giving 1% or 2% toward your closing costs. If you say, hey, are your prices negotiable on inventory homes? And they say yes, that's another sign. What'd you find?
425.
425, you were right. Yeah. So that's like 150 to 3 is twice. 300 plus another one. That's 450. We sold it for 420. That's about 3 times, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty good.
It's not bad.
No. And then she turned that property into a rental property, the one she bought in COVID, but that property has like $200,000 in equity. And then she bought this other property in Mesquite one time. I can't remember the market she bought that in, but basically she sold that and did a 1031 exchange and bought 2 other properties.
I remember selling that one.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was the worst
foundation
I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember that?
I remember. Yeah, like I just remember selling it, and I remember having a conversation to multiple agents about the foundation issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was, it's like one of those things that
was bad.
If you let a foundation get to a certain point, fixing it becomes just something so overwhelming. I've seen it once or twice. Yeah.
They brought like a trench in, and they were trenched out
the center.
The center throughout the entire house. Yeah. And then like
through concrete, obviously.
Yeah, it's like a bulldozer. That's what a trench is. It's like a small kind of narrow bulldozer, and it just trenches out like the concrete foundation around the post tension cables. Is that the one that
looks like a
little bobcat? Yeah.
Like almost looks like a chainsaw on the end.
It can.
A really big one.
Yeah. Mm. And then I feel
through the house.
You had to like walk so you wouldn't fall in the holes. I mean, they were like 4 feet down.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything that bad. Anyway, she 1031 exchanged that house. Still made a profit, by the way. And then bought 2 in Atlanta. And then she moved to Florida. And then she bought one in Florida. Like, I would say that one's probably gained a little bit of equity, but not that much. But she's only bought it like a year and a half now.
Year and a half, if you have a little bit of equity.
Yeah, because we're in a flat market. Yeah. So and then now she's able to be a stay-at-home mom, in her mid-30s, but she was able to do that before. Like, she's been a stay-at-home mom, I think, 3 or 4 years, and that's because of the rental property. But my point in telling her story is sometimes she bought in like super, super great markets, but I would say all the markets she bought in were good, at least, or great.
Hey,
good to great.
That is, having that, I mean, if it being just coincidence or a foresight, that's, go buy a lottery ticket, Tiff.
Right.
You got some luck on your side.
But she knew the first time, there's no way she could have known that. I mean, she was 25 and it was the pit of the recession. There's no way she knew that, right? She just did it because she had a need to buy a house because she got married and they wanted to buy a house. That was it. That wasn't about her being a super, expert.
Savvy.
Yeah, it was.
Savvy.
It wasn't about that.
Rental. Super savvy rental. Oh gosh.
like expert.
Not expert, but investor.
Yeah, she wasn't. It was like, how do you know? You don't know.
No.
You just get lucky.
It's
kind of like Scott.
But at the same time, she knew one thing.
What?
People with houses have more money.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. At the core.
At the core of it,
she knew, and she was right.
People that you consider you've done well if you own a house, right? If you got married, great. It's like we just bought our first house. Exactly. Oh my gosh,
I know.
That's huge.
It's like the milestone,
and we love seeing new homeowners.
Yeah,
like regardless of if you're an investor or not, like brand new buyers, never owned a home, lived in an apartment your whole life. I've had a client that like they all their entire life, they never owned, their parents never owned, and then they get their first property.
Amen.
And they were just,
that's beautiful.
When you can almost feel the emotion at the closing table. That's awesome. It's really good.
Yeah, that's
good.
Powerful.
It feels good.
Yeah, that changes generations.
But, it's. Okay. Well, sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
So that's a story of buying in the right markets, like deeply. Some of them luck, some of them skill. As she grew, she got more skill and she could identify the markers, right, on the macro level, right? But then in the beginning, she didn't know that.
No.
She's a smart girl. She has a finance degree, but trust me, she didn't know. Okay. But then other houses she's bought, they've still done great. They've all
improved.
Yeah,
they appreciated.
But like even the 1031 exchange, like that's a tough one to do where you get it right on both ends fully. You're selling in a market and you're buying in another market. Like that's a hard combination to achieve.
Separate markets.
And in two different cities. But anyway,
it's about having that team. It's about having that team in place.
It's true.
Right? The people that will get you to where you need to be are the people that you need to have around you, which is that team of, lenders, tax attorneys, lenders, or I think I already said that. Title companies.
Inspectors,
different vendors
property
for
managers.
Types of like maintenance, all the way from, a good plumber, an HVAC technician.
Yeah.
Like anything that has to do with the house, or if you've ever called somebody about a house, landscaping, fencing, plumbing, as far as to some plumbers and some landscapers don't do either one.
Yeah.
Some have or plumbing specific to the outside of the house, which I've only found one time that a certain guy was like, "You don't do plumbing inside?" He's like, "No, I only do on the outside."
Like city sewer lines and stuff?
Yeah, like major... like big projects.
Okay.
It's like that's not what I need for this house.
He was like a niche guy.
Yeah, very niche. Yeah. But
so I think anyway, the key to getting ahead is getting started. If you're able and willing, the answer is, and then if the numbers make sense, it's always the right time. But I have one more story that I think can really help drive this home. Okay.
Bring it.
All right. This is the story of Scott Belsley, who you've met. And he started investing in 1975. Okay. Now, Ian, I was curious, what were the interest rates in 1975?
I'm going to assume between 9 and 10%.
Ian, you're so smart. Yes, it was 9.05%.
9.05?
Yes.
Okay, so
in
9%.
1975. So it's 9.05% more than the 7% that we have today in 2024. Okay, now then people argue, well, houses were cheaper. Okay, probably. They were. Well, not probably. They were. But it's still... technically relative, sort of, okay? So from 1975 to 1990, for 15 years, they did not get back into the nines. Okay, so when they were in the nines, they probably were like, oh, they've got to come down, right? Well, they didn't come down for 15 years, Ian. They kept going up. So
prime, I think, in the 80s was somewhere at 16%.
Yeah, 16.64% in 1981. Which was the savings and loan crisis, the S&L crisis.
Yeah, that was one of the recessions.
One of the recessions. That's right. That's exactly right. Now, was that a good time to buy?
Yeah. In Dallas-Fort Worth, it was.
It depends, I guess, right? If you're able and willing, if the numbers make sense.
Oh,
And
I also like equate it to like out of the last 5 recessions. We learned this at the beginning of COVID.
yeah,
When we were talking to the economists and we were trying to
yes.
figure out what is going to happen
Mark
during
Dozier.
COVID.
Yeah.
Mark Dozier.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mark.
Mark Dozier, we just appreciate you.
You know, we went through that, and like out of the 5 recessions over the last 50 years,
Yeah.
3 of them.
Okay.
Well, let me see. 3 of them. That's the German 3.
Oh, what's this one?
That
I
is-
thought that was the German 3.
I thought the German 3
Okay.
was
This one?
3.
Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards.
Y'all seen that?
3.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
3 of them, prices went up. Prices went up.
Wow.
Rents went up
Wow.
in a recession.
Wow.
The other 2, I think it was like a drop of around 3%. I think that was in the 90s.
Okay.
And then our 2008 housing bubble,
Yeah.
that was the actual recession that did do some damage to the DFW market.
Great Recession.
The Great Recession
Yeah.
between, I think it was, don't hold me to this, but I think it was like 17 to 19% decrease
Okay.
in home values.
Yeah.
We're already back from that.
Big
and,
time.
and more.
We saw COVID. I saw some neighborhoods go as high as 40% increase in 1 year after COVID. 40%.
So, I mean, that just goes to show you,
Just
it's
goes
like
up and down.
it depends on your market, right?
Yeah.
Our market's very, very hardy, very robust.
I like that word. You're right. Hardy. It is.
We're able to withstand some economic downfalls that would probably take other cities
Right.
a little bit longer to recover from, or they would be a little bit more damaged by it. And so, that's why we really, that's why I love DFW.
But the thing is, because our clients are all over.
All over.
And we don't want them to feel, well, okay, that's not how we want them to feel. Here's the truth, all right? If you're in another market, let's say you're in some market in Ohio, you're still going to be able to win because real estate's always a winner.
And these principles and practices that we talk about can be used in other markets.
Absolutely.
We're only